Zero Foxtrot does not profess to share or promote the opinions and beliefs expressed by show host or guests. The Stay Zero podcast was created to provide a platform for servicemen and women to share their stories. Due to the nature of this podcast, sensitive topics will arise. Conversations about combat, PTSD, drug use, and other such subjects will occur. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, let me get your introduction here.
All right.
And we'll just keep rolling. Brad Evans, thank you for coming in.
You bet, man.
It's really
Thanks for
good
having
to
me.
see you again.
Thank you.
You're Army, correct?
I was.
Commissioned?
Initially enlisted.
Okay.
So I was enlisted for the first 8 years.
Okay. I didn't know
And I
that.
got out to go to school. September 11th happened. So I commissioned, I came back, commissioned. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And you became a psychologist.
I did.
For school. Is that what you went to school at that time?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. So my first job in the Army, I was a tactical PSYOP guy. And so worked in psychological operations. They run you through a lot of psych courses.
I bet.
Yeah. And
Was
so,
that fun? What did you think of that?
Yeah, honestly, man, it was a really cool job, especially on the tactical side. And
Were you like interviewing MAMs, military-aged males? And I mean,
we did a lot of interface with the population. Yeah. And so, the bread and butter missions for PSYOP are like, deception operations, leaflet drops.
Yeah.
Any loudspeaker operations, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right? Harassment operations, that kind of,
nice.
and those missions are a lot of fun. But the face-to-face stuff is pretty cool. I wouldn't say it's as cool as their latest recruiting video. It makes it look like it's Jason Bourne,
Yeah.
like CIA stuff.
Sure. Pulling fingernails.
Yeah, right. And I don't. Have you seen that recruitment ad? Okay, if you get a chance, man, look up like Ghost Soldier or something like that on YouTube.
Okay.
And it goes back to one of the old PSYOP images of like this ghost figure kind of moving around. Back when I think they called it Psy-War. Maybe that's how it originated, and that term, like a lot of things, gets watered down over time.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you got to do. The thing I liked about it, it's really small teams, like four men. Or 3 in a terp if you don't have an organic language asset. Sure. Which I hose myself out of. We can talk about that later. But,
okay.
Yeah. And so you operate in these really small teams, and when there's not a high intensity conflict going on, you do a lot of interface with the public, and especially what we would call like key communicators. So like school principals, business owners, media representatives, stuff like that. And so
key people in the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sheiks and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not only to get a pulse on the community, but also to look for inroads. Ways that we could get our message out there and have it supported, by the local
by
population.
affiliating with someone that has a following.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or even, as overt as buying airtime on a radio station,
Wow.
like that kind of stuff. So, we had budgets for that stuff.
No kidding.
And our own,
in Iraq.
all over the world, man. Oh. Yeah. We were doing this stuff.
So you weren't exclusively in the Middle East then?
No, shoot. My first deployments, man, were like, they're the forgotten stuff, like Haiti back in 94, 95, the Balkans.
Wow.
Bosnia, but we were doing that kind of stuff. I mean, from the time I walked into it, man, I just thought, how cool is this? Because I enlisted in 93.
Okay.
And, I tried like one semester of college out of high school, didn't go down the way I planned. And so anyway, a year later, man, I'm in a foreign country and like trusted as part of this small team as like a friggin' PFC,
Yeah.
So, no, don't get me wrong, man. We had NCOs.
Good,
we had NCOs rolling with us, but yeah, it was super autonomous, and I always thought like we were like the bastard children of USASOC anyway, we fell under their umbrella, but we were always kind of, we always ended up working for the cool guys.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fun, man.
Yeah.
And so you did that. You went to school, became a psychologist.
I did.
And then was 9/11 what kind of inspired you to come back in?
It was. And so,
what was your plan? What did you want to do differently with your commission?
Well, interestingly, man, I really was, I had kind of counted out the military. Like, I had my fun. I did my 8 years. When I left the military after my second enlistment, I didn't even intend on coming back. I really didn't. I was like, man, I jumped out of some planes, had some fun.
Totally.
Now let's get on with life. But I wanted to do something to get back with veterans and kind of be part of that community again. And so really my thinking was that either I was going to work for the VA. Honestly, I was thinking that during grad school. Or maybe as a...
Had you been to one yet?
A VA?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I changed my mind long before I knew much about
fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, man, I changed my mind about that long before I changed course and went the direction of, going back active duty. But, that was my thought. Like, okay, like I don't want to, and this, I'm probably going to say some things that are going to piss some people off.
Oh, do it, please. It's fun.
But I didn't want to have a clinic or be in a practice where, I'm listening to day-to-day life problems. And don't get me wrong, man, it has this place. Like mental health is a hugely important thing in this country. It's just not what I wanted to do, not in that context. I wanted to work with vets. I wanted to work with active duty soldiers, their families. Like that was the community that I wanted to get back with.
Sure.
And so I was really thinking hard about the VA. And then, September 11th happened and kind of, just switched all that. I was ready to enlist. Like I was ready to just get me back.
Yeah. What puts a gun in my hand fastest?
The fastest, man. It gets me on a plane.
The whole country really, I think,
for sure,
was more united than probably it's ever been
Yeah.
in the months after 9/11.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, that was my path to commissioning. And then, so this is a little known factoid, man. So when I commissioned with the Air Force. And at the time, they had a better training program going on.
Really?
Right? So it was a joint billet in San Antonio. And so we were doing things at BAMC, and BAMC was doing things at Wilford Hall. But the Air Force really had a squared away internship and residency program. And you could specialize in a lot of things. You could specialize like in health psychology, which at the time I was pretty interested in. Lots of evidence-based treatments, which I was super into. And also some specialty rotations. Like, even within the Air Force community, they had rotations where you could work with their special operators or you could work with pilots. And so I took advantage of as much of that stuff as I could take advantage of and did some specialty rotations in that. And did my payback. So, after they put you through their education, you owe them, right?
Oh, okay.
And so 3 years at Dyess Air Force Base in Texas, man, which wasn't the best venue, Abilene, but
there's nothing there.
No, 7th Bomb Wing.
My sister-in-law's there in the Air Force, and there ain't nothing in Abilene.
Yeah, a little bit of hunting, but outside of that, man, not a happening place.
Not a fun duty station.
No. And the one cool thing, was I worked a lot with the B-1 pilots at Dyess. And this was something that honestly had some direct applicability to some of the training that we got in aviation rotations and psychology. The B-1 has a design flaw, and the two rear seaters face outboard. And the front seaters, of course, face forward to fly the plane, right? But that creates a huge issue with motion sickness. And so when the Wizzo and the nav behind the pilot and co-pilot are facing outboard, they get sick because they can't see the terrain, and they don't really anticipate movements of the aircraft.
It's like riding in the back of an ambulance.
That's it, man. Yeah. And so when you're facing that way and the B-1's obviously a capable aircraft, right? Not putting along.
Sure.
So these guys get sick. And so we had this whole air sickness protocol that had been developed. And I mean, if people who just heard this without context, they'd probably think, man, that's just sadistic. They had this thing called the Barony chair that you'd stick people in and spin them, basically till they puked.
Really?
Yeah.
So the whole strategy was to desensitize them.
It was, and also to reset the otoliths in the semicircular canals of the ear, right?
Okay.
And to try to get some benefit that way. But there was a variety of things where, you'd position these guys and you'd spin them and you do this different stuff.
Are you spinning them in a training preparation for a flight, or did y'all put spinny chairs on the plane and spin them in flight?
No, definitely not on the flight.
I'm not feeling any better.
And that's a pretty dinky cockpit up there, despite the size of that thing. But,
okay, so it's like a desensitizing. We're going to spend some time in this.
It is.
In this device each day and try to
some of
help
it's cognitive behavioral stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people, when they anticipate sickness, it makes it worse, right? Oh, I got sick last time, I'm going to get sick again.
Start to dwell on that nausea.
Yeah, and you really focus on the sensations, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, there's this whole protocol around it. I always felt bad for the guys in the back seat because front seaters didn't really get sick,
totally,
but the rear seaters would definitely get sick. Not all of them, but enough where it was a thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, did my time at Dyess, man, pop smoke, went to the Army, commissioned back to the Army.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And it was what's a great way to put this? What's a decent way to put this? So the Air Force is in a lot of ways as described, right? It's pretty laid back comparatively, like the Army or the Marine Corps.
It's like a corporation with camouflage.
Yeah, great way to put it, man. You know, it's Bob and Jack and Bill, you know, and which it's like that in special operations too. But this is everybody on the Air Force base, right?
Sure.
And when I left the military, my last known reference point was I was an NCO, right? And so now I'm an NCO wearing captain's bars on an Air Force installation, so definitely a fish out of water, you know, and I'm tightening people up for uniform being jacked up or not saluting or, you know, just stuff that came second nature. And then I'm getting corrected by field grades who are, what are you doing? You know, like, and I, you know, jump wings transfer.
Okay.
Right? And so you can wear them on your Air Force uniform. So I wore mine.
Hell yeah.
And, you know, they'd correct me and say, this isn't the Army, man. This isn't the Army. Well, yeah, but you guys have some of the same regs, like, you know, that E2
standards, right?
Yeah, that E2 that just came out of the shopette, man, just blew past you two majors and you didn't say a word, you know. So anyway, so I said a lot of the NCO mentality in me, and honestly, it stayed that way. You know, which a lot of officers didn't appreciate, but whatever. So yeah, that was an experience. The Air Force was an experience, and then kind of came back home to the Army. Yeah. But yeah, does that answer like the you know,
man?
like,
yeah, that's and so. Once you got on with the Army, what was your mission then? Because you went through the pipeline, right?
So no, I had so I wasn't a tab guy.
Okay.
Right. I just got to work with them a lot.
Okay.
And yeah, and so you know, it kind of took me back to my early PSYOP days where it's like, man, you're doing all this cool stuff with all these cool dudes, but you're not really part of the club. You know, like you're kind of a strap hanger on this jump. You know. So yeah, so I got to do some really cool stuff in the world of like operational psychology, which is kind of a mixed role. It's like a combination of clinical, you know, because you still got to be a psychologist at the end of the day, but it's also a lot of command consultation stuff.
Really?
Like, you know, this team isn't doing what I expect them to do. You know, why do you think that is? You know, and you spend time with guys and you go to the field with them and you know, you kind of absorb what's happening, right? You're an outsider looking in, but
do they know you're a psychologist there to assess them?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And they don't know, I mean, you know, that whole charade, like, oh, you analyze it, you know, like that stuff, that goes on for about the first day. And then after that, it's like, whatever, man, we got stuff to do, you know? So you just become kind of a fly on the wall, but you know, being in the field, you're expected to move with them, do the things, you know, I won't say that they do, but like keep up.
Sure.
Right? And so.
Enough bullets flying, you could.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Put your pen down, Doc. We got to shoot.
Yeah, that's it, man. Pick up a rifle, dude. But yeah, you know, you'd kind of just observe. And
what did you notice?
Well, something, you know, probably the majority of the time, if it wasn't like an individual problem that something a guy was going through that was temporary, it was more personality stuff. You know, I mean,
just a whole bunch of alphas in a room.
Yeah, no surprise, right? Like, you know, some fit better together than others. And so sometimes it was as easy as, hey, put this guy on this team, move this guy over here. He's got a buddy here, and that solved the problem. But you know, a lot of times, again, it was a temporary thing going on. Like, you know, hey, this guy opened up to me, you know, he's having some problems at home. Like that's, you know, and this stuff, it's an interesting role to be in because you do want to maintain some level of confidentiality, but they're also aware that you're observing them and that, like, you know, not in the office, but like in the field. So those conversations are fair game, right? Now, if we talked in an office in privacy, it's a different ball game, right? But
most of the time when a guy's going through something, the team knows,
right?
Like everyone knows Billy's getting divorced right now, right?
Yep.
She took all of his money.
Yep.
He ain't seen his kids in 2 months, right? Like, we all know.
Yeah.
Because he can't keep that in.
Oh, 100%, you know? Man. And honestly, a lot of the intel came from the other team members. But, you know, after the third or fourth person tells you, it's like, okay.
I need to go talk to Billy.
Probably credible. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They're not all making up the same story. Yeah.
Right. Right. So you're helping guys with stuff like that. What other trends did you notice, or have you noticed it change since you got out? Because in my mind, like, I think back and I feel like most of us held it together pretty well,
right,
when we're there.
Right.
It's when we came home that everything came crumbling.
Yeah.
And that you get kind of blindsided with having bottled all that stuff up,
right,
out of necessity,
right,
because you had to work. We don't have time for that.
Right.
But once the work stops, and you don't think about it anymore, all that shit comes back in really weird ways.
Yep.
What have you found in that regard?
Yeah, I'd say that's a really accurate observation, because when things slow down for people. And that can come in a variety of ways, right? I mean, sometimes, depending on what people did in the military, their ops tempo can be just bananas, right? Like, I mean, they're just going all the friggin' time. And as long as they have those left and right limits and they have a mission and they're focused on that, I use this analogy a lot. You know, I say this to guys in treatment is that, you know, you go through this career and you're accumulating this bad shit and you're putting it in your rucksack, right? You just throw it in the ruck because you'll deal with it later. And that's what you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. And of course you don't, right? And the military is okay with that, right? You know?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Hey, man, as long as you're, you know, that's a really, really impressive combat effective skill. If you can see something really horrible and then just drive on and continue the mission, man, that's what they want, right?
Sure.
And of course, that's what you want and everybody on your team wants, but
absolutely.
But there is a reckoning at some point, right? You know, there's only so much shit that rucksack will hold and it gets pretty heavy. And so what I say to people is, you know, you've accumulated this junk in your ruck and you've never really taken the time to empty it. And now that things have slowed down, it's leaking, man. Like stuff's falling out. Mm-hmm. And that could be a variety of things. You know, that could be a smell. That could be something you saw on TV or the news or a movie. It could be a sound. It could be a million different things, but all of a sudden shit's flying out of that rucksack. And then, you know, you do what you've always done. You hurry up and try to gather it up and stuff it back in there.
Yeah.
Right? And so that trend of, you know, when people get to the end of a career, or they just get out, man. You know, maybe they've been going bananas for the last 8 years and I'm done. You know, it's time to do something different. But they notice that it's a change of pace and they have time to think. And so now it's kind of like, hey, man, all this stuff that, you know, you threw us back here a while back, but you're still carrying the weight. You remember us? You know, like we had some unfinished business.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's, I see that a lot. I see that a lot in clinical practice. And it's always kind of interesting to me because you'll see it. I don't know. I'd say the typical range is probably 1 year to 2 years after somebody gets out. Because now it's hit them. They've had some issues with it. And it's probably reached a point at which they say, you know what, man, I need to do something with this. Or a spouse has told them that, you know,
yeah.
Or a good friend.
Yeah, that seems to be about the expiration date for coping mechanisms that I've used.
Yeah.
Where initially I was excited, right? Like, fucking freedom.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Everybody, man, I'm going to grow my hair out, smoke dope.
Yeah, the moment I went in, all I was thinking about was the day I get out, right?
Right. Yep.
And yeah, it was exciting at first, and then it was boring, and then it was lonely.
Yeah.
And then it was, what the fuck do I do with my life, right? And then I think the solitude hit me real hard. And maybe because I had a very small team and we were always together. We had about a 4-man team. I was a sniper in the Marine Corps. Yeah. I don't know if I've told you that. Yeah. But, and so just you're with these guys all the time. You live together. You sleep together. You eat together. You train together. You party together, right?
Yeah. And
now they're all in their own states. And I'm back at home. And that part was a big adjustment.
For sure.
It's like for me, I got out after high school and then came right back home after. And I still had my high school friends, but we had memories of football together.
Right.
I feel like I had lived an entire lifetime since then.
Oh, yeah.
And now we had none of that in common anymore. Right. And so that was, I mean, they were fine. It's not like they weren't my friends, but there wasn't the connection. Like
Absolutely.
You sit in the room and you feel like you're alone.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, 2 years, that sounds... Did you have any experience like that when you got out of the Army?
So,
was it tough for you in any way, or?
It was, you know, but what you said was the exact experience I had after, you know, it wasn't like an intensive combat deployment, man. We invaded Haiti, like they basically deserted, and then our mission became rounding up bad guys.
Yeah.
You know, like we had this Haiti's 10 most wanted list, and we'd cruise around looking for these guys. Once in a while, the old police force would show up and want to battle, you know, because they wanted their jobs back, and like that kind of, you know, we're training up a new police force, right?
Nice.
And so I get done there, and it wasn't a long tour, man. It was a 6-month tour. It was supposed to be 3 months as an expeditionary force, and of course, you know, sitting on the tarmac waiting for your plane, you get the next 90 days. Yeah, you can almost taste the friggin' steak and the beer. But and it's such a short hop, man. Like we would have been in North Carolina in like 3 hours. You know,
no steak, back to German Shepherd.
Yeah, that's it. And I got that. There's some truth to that. Anyway. You know, like I took leave when I got back from that deployment and I went home. And like you said, I hadn't been gone that long, man, you know, like 2 years, right? Between basic and AIT and jump school and different stuff, right? And this deployment had been gone like 2 years. And so they wanted to have this big party for me. You know, I grew up in this little tiny town.
Yeah.
So all my high school buddies were there, you know, or at least most of them. And man, there's this, you know, they're all packed into this house, and I show up, and I think it's going to be great, and I'm just a friggin' fish out of water, right? So I'm off. I find myself off in the corner, like, I can't wait for this to be over, you know? And the usual dumb shit question, are you kill anybody? You know, like the stuff people love to ask. They don't know any better, but you know, to me, it's a pretty deeply personal question.
Yeah, it is.
And anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking to myself, like, how surreal it is. Like, you know, a couple weeks ago, I was a friggin' jolly green giant, man, roaming the earth with a gun, you know? And now I'm in this little house packed full of people, kids, basically, you know, not that I was older, but I'd lived a little bit of life in those 2 years. Yeah. And thinking to myself, like, man, I can't relate, you know, like, you're telling the same stories you were 2 years ago when I left. You haven't really done anything different, you know? And I don't know, man, like divine intervention, just karma, whatever. A buddy of mine that also enlisted in the Army happened to be there, and he was on leave at the same time. He was down at Fort Davis, Panama. And he's like, hey, man, you want to get out of here? Oh, hell yeah, man. Yeah. That was the invitation I was looking for, you know? And we went down to the beach, man, and killed some beers and talked, and, you know, and it all worked out. It was a good night. But that was like one of those first experiences of, like, you know, it's just hard to reconcile, like, the stuff that goes on in the military, and then this quick adaptation or expected adaptation to normal, you know, quote unquote, normal life. Right. And that was kind of a prelude, I guess, you know. That was my first taste of it, and that was early on. And then after that, I figured out, okay, I don't want to do celebrations or parties or mix with people. I kind of want to stay with the guys that I'm with, you know, like hang out with them. I don't know what they're doing, going on leave or whatever.
I'd rather have 4 of my best friends than 20 people I've met once.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
Sit around a fire, drink a little bit, tell some real stories, talk some shit.
Yeah.
Right.
That aren't going to petrify everybody else.
Right. Yeah. I remember my team came to visit me about a year or 2 after I got out. Yeah. And they stayed for three or 4 days. And my dad said that when they left, I looked like a different person. Not just but looked physically different. Right. And it was almost like I had been on fire watch for 2 years, and I felt like someone finally relieved me. Yeah. And I could relax having them with me. Yeah. Right. And I got out of the yellow and into the white for a while, and it felt good.
You bet.
And it was relaxing, and I got more therapy in that 3 days than I think I would have got from 10 years of traditional style. Yeah. But I don't know a lot about traditional style therapy. Yeah. What can you tell me about that? How does that work? What is the strategy? Sure. Is that what you do? And then, and how does that work?
Yeah. So my clinics, you know, again, the whole mission was to serve active duty folks, their families, veterans and their families, right? Now, we don't tell people who don't have that background they can't come to our clinic, but that's certainly not the population that we've ever marketed towards, or, you know.
You're in Killeen though, right?
Killeen and San Antonio.
Oh, all right. You have 2. Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a third one, man. I had one in Tampa, Florida. I sold it to a good buddy of mine. Oh, wow. Knock on wood, it's still there, man. I haven't talked to him in a few days, but I know he got out, you know, before this hurricane hit.
Oh, yeah.
So we had 3 of these. And so, you know, I found that the back and forth to Tampa was a bit much, you know. So yeah, we've got a clinic in San Antonio, one in Killeen, and kind of our charter is it's all doctoral level folks. So everybody in these clinics is either PhD, PsyD, or MD. Okay. You know, that's it. And that's just the way we've always set it up. That's not to say there's not great social workers out there and great counselors, but that's the way we've established these and we've maintained it. And the other thing is that, you know, we've always made sure that the people who come on board with us have some background, right? So either they've worn the uniform, got a family member that wears a uniform, like a spouse or a brother or sister, has worked at the VA long enough to be able to speak the language, or DOD long enough to speak the language, right? So that they're at least somewhat initiated, you know, and the consistent feedback we get out of that is, of course, they're easy to talk to. Sure. Because you don't have to explain every little thing.
I did go through one couples therapy, or a couple of them, but and one of the first battles that I had with my wife was, who are we going to go talk to, and how's this person going to relate to anything that we've experienced within our marriage? Right. Like, I was deploying still, right? And you want to go to a civilian doctor. We've done 17 deployments. What are they going to teach us about that? You know? Yeah. And so finding someone through that was what opened the door for me, and it inevitably probably saved our marriage.
Right.
It was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even open to it unless I felt like I could relate.
Right.
And it helped. And I actually had him in, David Eaton, excellent psychologist. I'm not sure if he's a psychologist or not, but counselor anyway.
Right.
And he was an Army infantry captain.
Awesome.
When intel and just spoke straight to it.
Yeah.
My wife was maybe a little bit more cross-eyed with all the acronyms and things, but I was picking up what he was putting down.
Yeah, man. It knocks down a lot of barriers to be able to do that. Like when you don't have to explain every facet of military life to somebody, I will say on the other side of that token, and I use this expression a lot, but your cancer doc doesn't have to have had cancer to treat you. You know what I mean? They can still be a really good cancer doc.
Totally.
I just think that it, in the context of military experience, it helps build rapport, it helps maybe get you there just a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
Not a requisite, but I think it helps.
I agree.
But in terms of, what you asked about traditional therapies, there's some really good talk therapies actually that exist, that don't even involve medications. And, I lean that direction, and of course, I guess what we talk about today shouldn't be construed as medical advice, right? Put my disclaimer out there, right? Whatever you do after listening to this doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big fan of there's a handful of treatments that are what I consider to be top tier talk therapy treatments.
Okay.
And in our clinics, we mostly do what we consider to be the top two. That comes out of data. We do have psychiatrists in our clinics, but we bring on really conservative psychiatrists, right? And typically people leave there with fewer medications than they walked in with.
Okay. So not politically, but medication wise or intervention wise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And people tend to get, there's some treatments, especially exposure-based treatments, people do better if they're not medicated, right? I mean, if I take a Xanax and I tell you some horrific stories, man, I'm not really feeling the full impact of that story, right? Like it's easier for me to talk about it. That could be a starting point, I guess, but at the same time, I'm not getting the exposure benefit from it,
What is exposing you and running back through that experience?
Yeah.
What does that do to help? How does that help people?
Yeah. So exposure's been around a long time, right? It's one of the oldest psychological tools in the toolbox. And initially, exposure therapy was largely used for very specific fears or phobias, right? So if you had a dog phobia, you got bit by a dog last year or whatever, and you're like, hey, man, I got to get over this. So we would do a gradual exposure process with you. We'd start off by talking about dogs until you say, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with that. And then pictures, then video. To ultimately, we've got a dog in here and you're petting the dog, right? And so we graduate and we ramp up that exposure as you acclimate to it. Complex trauma or fears, like PTSD, for example, is a little bit trickier in the sense that it's harder to ramp up, right? It's harder to gradually expose somebody to it. And some of the best treatments out there, like, I'm a huge fan, I'll just, show my bias, but I'm a huge fan of an approach called prolonged exposure. And it systematically addresses really complex traumas ad nauseum, right? Repetitions. And people tend to have this tendency to graduate the experience on their own, right? So for example, I'll say, hey man, you were in Fallujah, tell me about one of the worst things there. And your initial account to me typically would be, well, we left the wire, there was contact, we came back. Okay, man, a whole bunch more shit there happened, right? But that's what you're comfortable, like, just getting out, right?
Sure.
Because you don't really want to really rattle that memory cage too much. And then, maybe I have you repeat that 4 or 5 more times, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit more detail. Yeah, that's right. We were at that turnoff and, they were waiting for us. And, so the details start to fill in a little bit. And part of that is they're getting more comfortable telling the story, right? So the main idea behind exposure in general, whether it's simple exposure or, something like prolonged exposure, is to kind of habituate the brain to that information, to that memory without ramping up. Right? Without going to level 10 because something reminded you of it or you thought about it, even if you chose to or didn't choose to, right? Someone else brought it up and that triggered that memory. So it's this really intense kind of desensitization process, not to, people sometimes confuse this saying, there's no cure for PTSD because you can't erase my memory. Well, that's a true statement. I can't erase anybody's memory. I don't think we have that technology yet, maybe someday. But that's only a single aspect of a cure, I guess. Yeah, that'd be great, man, if I could just remove the memories you don't want. But the next best thing would be to change how you respond to that memory, right? And so that it doesn't cause you problems. So to me, that's a cure also.
Yeah.
Memory's always going to be there, as far as I can tell. Like you're not going to unsee it, unlive it. It's there.
Yeah.
But if you can change how your brain interacts with that information and how it responds to it, even if it's from going from level 10 reaction to a level 5 reaction, that's good, man. That's a huge improvement, right? I'll take that.
Yeah.
Of course I want to get you to a 1 or a 0, but I'll take a 5. And so, with something like, this is, I guess, more of an evidence-based treatment that's been around a while. It's not new. But the systematic approach to each memory individually, right? So, let's say, I don't know, a veteran walks in, man, he's got like 6 things that really stuck with him from combat. And so we'll kind of rank order those things, as best we can, subjectively. Like, hey, man, on a 1 to 10 scale, like which of these is like the 10, if there is one. Mm-hmm. And is there one that's slightly less than that? Or these 2 things, both 10s? Like whatever it is, we'll sort it out. Mm-hmm. And then we usually jump right in the middle of it. We'll pick one that's like a 5. And prolonged exposure is interesting, and it's like any other exposure in this regard, is that it is really hard at the beginning and people tend to get worse.
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared for that, if nobody bothered to tell you that, you don't come back, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, man, that shit's making me worse. Why would I go back there? And sometimes docs don't tell their patients that, and I don't understand why. It should be part of the informed consent. It should be part of the disclosure, other than they're just trying to kindly get this person to keep coming back, and get them started in treatment without scaring them off. But I'd rather have somebody kind of have the full knowledge of, hey, man, this will probably ramp up for the first 3 or 4 visits. Nightmares will get worse. Your hypervigilance will get worse. You'll probably be more edgy and irritable. Sleep's going to be shit. It's going to be bad. But that's temporary. And you're already doing a lot of that shit, So I'm not necessarily, all that worried about you coming up a couple of notches.
Right.
And then what we see is a plateau, right? So they stick with it. They grind it out, man. They're doing the work. It's hard. And then somewhere around that same time frame, maybe say 4 to 6 visits, they kind of plateau out. It's about as bad as it gets. And it's never as bad as the original thing, but, we build it that way in our minds.
Yeah.
And then we see this nice, consistent decline after that in a lot of symptoms, because now they're working with it to the extent that their brain is kind of habituating to the information. It finds no need to get ramped up and start, banging your chest, your heart through your chest. There's just no point. It kind of accepts that, hey, okay, talking about this doesn't mean something bad is happening or going to happen. I'm just relaying information, right?
Yeah.
And that's honestly how a lot of fears or phobias are overcome, is through that acknowledgement of your brain saying, okay, I get it, man. I think about all these horrible things that could happen, but getting it to recognize that none of those things are actually happening, right? And there's a couple of other cognitive components to that sometimes happen spontaneously, sometimes they happen with a little bit of help. But I think as veterans, by and large, especially veterans suffering with PTSD, we have a tendency to really skew statistics, right? And so we'll view something as far more dangerous or likely to have a bad outcome than it truly is, right?
Like what?
Oh, like, I don't know, man, going to a restaurant,
Okay.
And so people are like, I can't handle it, man. There's too many people, I got to sit with my back to the wall, which I do. That's just situational awareness.
Totally.
Yeah, you should know where your egress routes are, man. You should probably have at least some semblance of a battle plan, just, but you don't need 50 contingency plans, right? Yeah. Like, okay, man, if a bad dude comes through that door, I go out that one.
You don't need to take your rifle.
Yeah, right.
Bring your pistol.
Yeah, be prepared, man. But,
pistols are full.
Yeah, exactly. Have a plan to meet or kill everybody you meet, right? But this idea that, going to a restaurant to have dinner is dangerous statistically is false, right? Yeah, it happens, man. We had a Luby shooting and stuff does happen, right? But statistically, the news will make you think that that's probably way more likely than it truly is. Have you ever looked at the data, right? It's the same irrationality. And again, we're humans, right? So we're subject to this. And I'm not exempt from it either, man. I buy into it sometimes, right? Even though I know better in a lot of cases. But, if you look at something like flying's a great example, man. Statistically, you're like 50 times more likely to die in your freaking car on the way to the airport. I think it's higher than that, actually.
No doubt.
But they show an airplane crash on TV and it's horrific, right? There's this smoldering massive aluminum in the side of a mountain, right? Nobody survived.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple other people died. See, that's why I don't get on those things. But what about the other 2 million flights that took off and landed just fine,
Yeah.
right? So, I think you're more likely to win the lottery, crash and die in your car and get eaten by a shark than you are to,
For sure.
hey, I'm playing with those numbers, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we do that in terms of risk evaluation too, especially if we're already primed, right? We already kind of have that anxiety, that agitation going. We start to view situations as being far more dangerous than in reality they truly are. And I'm not saying the world's a safe place, man. I mean, stuff can go down. It does go down. But statistically, I would encourage people to look at their, I don't know, man, unless they're living in Chicago and listening to this, if they live anywhere in Texas, even Dallas or Houston, man, I mean, seriously, look at the statistics. Look how many people live there, and then look at the last time, this thing that you want to do involves some type of horrific outcome, or how often that's happened. Maybe is a better metric than when was the last time, right? But just in general, I think we do that sometimes, and it precludes us from living life, right? And of course, avoidance is a hallmark characteristic of most anxieties, including PTSD. But it's also a self-reinforcing emotion, right? It's a self-reinforcing process. So if I don't do it, nothing bad happens. That proves me right.
Right.
And I should do that more.
Right.
In fact, I should probably even scale back what little bit I am doing so that I'm not doing that either.
Yeah, it's difficult to measure the absence of an event.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that self-confirmation bias will kick in, right? It's like, see, that's why I don't go to places like that, right?
Jason Aldean concert.
Yeah, right. Exactly, man. Yeah. Exactly. But, in the interim, a lot of life is being missed, right?
It's true.
Wife wants to go to the mall. Kids want to go to a concert or a game or something, and you're like, no, too dangerous. But they'll go.
It's true. So, yeah. And that's a tough thing because there's things that you probably should go do. And then there's things that I don't have a desire to go to concerts.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. I don't think that's affecting my life too much.
Right.
But maybe if my family, if that was their thing,
right,
I need to work through this shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there are some things that, I was predominantly diagnosed or assigned with an adjustment disorder.
Yeah.
And
it's one of the military's favorite diagnoses. Yeah.
You could have sent me to Mexico on the beach with senoritas and margaritas for 7 months, and I'd have come back to Texas and had an adjustment disorder, right? Yeah. But I guess it's tough to know, and it's individual.
Yeah.
Subjective. Where are the lines that you're having problems, and what do you want help with?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And I guess I work through some of that just kind of through natural exposure, because I would notice that I would get edgy and irritable at restaurants, that wasn't unusual for me either. And, I think my wife had pointed it out one night, and she nailed it. She said, you can tell me more about what these folks over here are talking about than what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And she was right. I was clocking everybody, man, listening to what people were talking about around me, just kind of wired in, And it dawned on me, and it was the whole point of going to a restaurant is to pay somebody to prepare food for you and clean up after you and enjoy it, because you don't have to do it, right? That's the whole point. And I'm like, this is miserable, what am I should either learn to enjoy this, as it's intended, or I should stop doing it. If I can't learn to enjoy it, because there's no point in paying somebody to make me miserable.
Yeah, I just go home and have my wife do it.
Yeah, and I'm making in reality, I'm making myself miserable. It's nobody in that restaurant doing anything to me.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So that is one evidence-based treatment that I'm a huge fan of, and I've seen great results with it.
So to work through the desensitization, to process, maybe organize the parts of that event, maybe make some sense of it. Yep. Do you find, because one of the problems that I struggle with, and even within myself in my own journey, I signed up for it.
Right.
There wasn't a draft.
Right.
There was a war, and I signed up for the Marine Corps infantry.
Yeah.
What the fuck else did I think was going to happen, right?
Except bad stuff. Right?
Yeah, nothing fun was going to happen. Right. And so what am I struggling with?
Yeah.
And it wasn't war.
Yeah.
I expected that.
Right.
And it wasn't even my friends getting killed in war.
Right.
That I struggled with. Right. It was the unnecessary shit.
Yeah.
The stupid shit.
Yeah.
Guys dying over incompetence,
mm-hmm.
leadership incompetence, team incompetence. As simple as we had a kid that I think he was in golf company. He got in trouble for falling asleep on post or something. I don't totally remember what it was, but his punishment was to fill sandbags for the entire day in full kit. And he died around 3 in the afternoon of heat stroke.
Wow.
And so like his parents got that phone call. Yeah. And it's like stupid shit like that I think is what carries dudes along. I don't know who his team leader was. Yeah. But I would imagine that's been an issue for him in post the war.
I would think so.
Right? I would too.
Yeah.
And so how do you help people reconcile the fucked up things that shouldn't have happened, that were malevolent, or beyond that of just war?
Right. Yeah. So, you know, is
it the same process? Maybe I'm just redundant question.
No, it can be for some people. For other people, it isn't. And I'm actually kind of glad you brought that part up, because there's this whole area of, it's an emerging area of PTSD, but there's been some work done on it. Brett Litz et al., this idea of moral injury, right? And it sounds kind of like a weird term, right? Like moral injury. Like how do my morals get injured?
Yeah, but that sounds like some hippie word salad.
It does, man. It sounds like some new age BS.
You hurt my feelings.
But it's not, you know, it's not, because it applies to a lot of people. And really what it boils down to is when you witness something or participate in something or have knowledge of something that just does not square with your moral compass, right? And trying to reconcile it. And for a lot of people, that is the hang up, right? It's not just, hey man, I saw this thing that really nobody should see. You know, nobody should have to see that, whether I volunteered or not. Like it was just, you know, bad. But this idea that something happened, and a lot of times it is, you know, kind of along the lines you're talking about. It's like a leadership failure, you know, or it's just a bad order. Like, you know, you guys need to go do this. And, you know, and kind of in the back of your mind, like, I don't know, man, that sounds kind of sketchy. Like, that doesn't seem like we're doing anything good there, you know? But as a good trigger puller, you know, we do it, right? And okay, well, the officers know best, right? It wouldn't make them officers if they weren't, right? Yeah, right. And you're taught to, you know, you're taught to follow that, you know, with the rare exception of an illegal order, which, you know, on a battlefield, man, I mean, come on, you know, it really has to cross a line for it to be obvious, you know.
I was told, I remember I had a team leader when I was a boot tell me to execute a dude, and we were just looking at him, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, shoot him. Like, and I had my rifle up, flicked it off safe. Was like, are you sure about this? Like, I don't feel like this is a good call. Like,
in your mind, you're like, run, dude, run.
I was like, am I just supposed to follow? I've been in the fleet all of 10 minutes.
That's what I'm saying.
We had just got in, and we were pushing through Fallujah, and it was like smoking. I'm like, that guy ain't got a gun. He's standing. He just pissed his pants. Like, I was terrified that he was going to tell me to do that again, and like I didn't know what to do. Yeah, everything up to that moment, if I didn't immediately respond to what I had been told, you know, you go through a lot of training to make that happen, and I knew it was fucked up, and I was glad that I didn't do it. One, and two, that we didn't end up following through with that.
Yeah,
they let him go, but
that would have been a great example of kind of like a double whammy, man. I mean, you know, yes, the potential trauma of killing a non-combatant, right? Maybe it was a combatant, maybe it just wasn't that day or whatever, right?
But, totally, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. But the moral injury piece, you know, of like knowing before you pull that trigger, like this isn't quite right, you know, like there's no reason to do this.
I think some of it is you build this structure in your mind of the way that the system is supposed to work.
Right.
You show up to formation early, you run hard, you train hard, you bust your ass long nights and hard days, you go to war and you should win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You should at least win the fight or the battle. And now you get a bomb and no one to shoot back at.
Right.
Like it was real debilitating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just fighting ghosts.
Yep.
Because they wouldn't fight us.
Right.
It's fucking infuriating.
Yeah, right.
And then you go on to the moral side of it, and we can trust our officers. We can trust our command. We can trust our government.
Yeah.
And now, like, as the time has gone by and we learn more and more about the money laundering and all the things that were happening around that war that might not have really been why we were told we were there.
Right.
And now the whole thing is umbrella capsuled with this moral conundrum
Yeah.
of, hey man, thanks for serving our country. Sucks she got lied to into that.
Right.
And then it's like, well, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did the best I could with the information I had.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's tough. And
Very tough.
That's another side of it that I think a lot of dudes struggle with. At least I can see it online. You know, people posting things like, you're just a puppet for DR or Halliburton or for Dick Cheney or for, you know, there were no weapons of mass destruction. It's like, well, I didn't fucking know. Right. We just saw some buildings collapse, a bunch of people die, and they said they did it. Who wants to go?
Yeah.
Shit, I do. And at the time, I didn't feel like we had, at least maybe I was young and dumb. I didn't have this level of distrust within my own government.
I didn't either.
I didn't think America had this level of distrust. And now the cat's kind of out of the bag. And I worry about future wars.
I do too.
How, if it's legit, how are you going to convince everybody it's legit?
Right.
This is a problem with lying.
Yeah.
Very basic. I teach my 6-year-old. Yeah, if you lie, everybody will think you're a liar.
Absolutely.
And then it won't matter what happens. No one's going to believe you when it's real.
You know, and that was such a, you know, just kind of going back to my own early military roots, but, you know, that was such a key tenet in PSYOP. It was like, if we said something was going to happen, it better happen.
Yeah.
Because all credibility gets lost, right?
Totally.
If you say there's going to be a food delivery tomorrow at 10, it better be fucking 09:55. When, you know.
Absolutely.
If you say, hey, we're about to level this building, clear out, that building needs to be leveled. You know, let that kind of stuff, because it's so easy.
That's the standard we expect. Right. We're America. We're the good guys.
Right.
We do the right thing.
Right.
And then you find out, it's tough.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Have guys come in and talked in a broad spectrum like that?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, man. It's probably a combination of a lot of different political and philosophical things, but, you know, I attribute at least part of the hard time they're having with recruiting to that very thing. You know, like parents telling their kids, man, don't fucking enlist in the military. Like, you can't trust anything that anybody's saying right now, you know?
I sympathize with that.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't want my son to join, at least not in this administration, not with what's happening in Ukraine or Israel.
Right.
I don't trust either one of those wars.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I get that a lot. You know, I get people coming in and saying, I can't in good faith, like, encourage my kiddos to join the military. Yeah. You know, like, even though I believe in this country and I bleed red, white, and blue, you know, it's not for the people in power, right? It's for the concepts of the United States. It's for the concepts of America and the, you know, at least what used to be the core values of America. Hopefully they still are, but you know, they see a divergence there, and they're just like, man, I can't, you know, like
well, it is a conundrum, because like, say you're going to write that ship.
Right. How so?
You're going to get ran the fuck over by that shit.
Absolutely.
We all saw the nail that sticks out gets the hammer, right? Like, you don't go in and tell your CO he ain't doing shit right.
Right.
And so then what's the next hope? Because I felt this way, or I thought about it at least. Do I stay in and try to have a positive impact?
Right.
And not get eaten by that fucking machine?
Yeah. Pretty hard to do.
I saw a lot of good officers.
Oh, amen to that.
Man, almost all of them got weeded out.
Yeah. Yep.
And the only people we got stuck with were the good ones who were quietly good.
Right.
And the yes men.
Yep.
And the quiet good ones can only do so much.
That's it.
Because they know I have to play the game.
That's it.
If I don't, you don't even have a quiet good one.
Right.
And maybe that's the compromise there, and navigating how to be the quiet leader.
You almost need to be like Gray Man, you know?
You have to.
And it's like, you know, a secret paladin for good, but you can't, you know, you can't expose yourself.
Yeah.
And
like, how do I be here for my troops, but not the reality, show the command? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's fucking sad.
Yeah.
Because it's the exact opposite of what you expected. I thought I was going to go to the Marine Corps and learn all this shit about leadership and camaraderie and brotherhood. And I learned more about what it's not.
Yeah.
Now I did feel the brotherhood, and I did have that, but I only saw it at the lower level.
Right.
I didn't see it at the staff level.
Right.
And I can't speak to the officers. I don't know, but at least the staff and CO level and up, it didn't appear to be there.
Right.
Like it was with the guys. And some of that may be like the trauma bond.
Sure.
You go through SEER or, you know, whatever schoolhouses, and you suffer together, and you have this this likeness, right? We've been through that. I know that you can at least go through that hard shit.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I want you on my team.
Tip my hat. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a measure of you, you know,
Totally.
It's like, yeah, man, okay.
Totally.
It's one of the things about, you know, at least in the Army, we probably do it way more than the Marine Corps does, but we wear all of our shit on our uniform, right? Every scare badge and tab and, you know, and all that. And yeah, and it's like a cool way to quickly like, okay, this dude's good to go. You know, I don't know about this joker over here. It's slick. You know?
How much has that man suffered?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And that's what it is. It's fucking suffer flare.
Right. Yeah. 100%, man.
That's awesome.
I had this cat that he was a team sergeant in PSYOP, right? And he always wore like a sterile uniform, but everybody knew this dude was harder than woodpecker lips, right? And so one day he breaks out like the legit uniform, and it's got fucking that's Halo, Scuba, fucking Pathfinder, Master Blaster wings, there, Assault, CIB. I mean, every friggin' bad dude badge you could have, he's got. And he only wore it one day.
Select all.
And I don't know if all of his other shit was dirty, right? So he had no choice because he wasn't that type of dude, right? He just didn't care because it's optional, right? It is optional. And so, yeah, he shows up one day and just everybody's like, holy shit. You know, everybody suspected it. Nobody really knew it. But then he showed up basically wearing his DD-214 on his uniform. You know, it's like, whoa. Yeah. And then shit at the time, you know, anybody who had more than one tab or, you know, more than a couple scare badges, like a freaking god in my eyes, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. But anyway.
And you're kind of looking for them. Like, we're going to war. Who are the guys that might have been there before?
That's it. Yeah.
Latch on to him.
Right.
And then for me, it was at least one of the more difficult problems was losing that guy that I thought, there ain't no way he's going to get killed over there.
Right.
That dude's fucking solid.
And that'll rattle.
I am going wherever he goes. I trust him 100%. Yep. That dude's squared the fuck away.
Yep.
And then boom.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
If he can go
right.
and he can, like, this illusion, which I knew it was, but I assume a lot of people probably feel that way. Like, I'll be the one to make it through.
Yeah.
Right. I'll be the one that suffers.
Right.
But if everybody gets killed, I'll like, and they'll rescue me, you know, like,
right.
we got a pulse over here.
Yeah.
You know, that'll be me. Right. And then you, fuck, that gets popped. And
no, it's,
I think I actually felt scared the first time.
Demoralizing.
After that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was where, again, the structure I had built up for how to navigate this in a successful way got dissolved.
Yeah. You know, we were, I was telling you about it in Haiti and things, you know, settled down a little bit and we would just go round up these dudes. You know, you could always tell, like, you'd roll into a village and the dudes that ran were the criminals, right?
Yep.
And we're chasing these guys through this little grove of trees and there's a big river on the other side of it. And we're just kind of weaving our way through this brush. And I think we were working with 7th SF group at the time. And I hear a whoosh, pah, you know, like just whizzed over my head. And, you know, that kind of really distinctive sound. But to me, it was a new sound, right? Hadn't been shot at before.
Okay, you know? Yeah.
And this guy, he was, you know, kind of like a god to a lot of us young troopers. But, you know, I just looked at him. I go, what the hell was that? He goes, he just got shot at, dumbass. It happens every day, you know, kind of thing to him, you know, and it just that kind of confidence like inspires, you know, and it's like, well, shit, if he's not worried about me getting plugged, maybe I shouldn't be, you know? Like, these guys can't shoot, you know, and, but
you can duck and get shot in the head just as easily as you
can stand
here.
You might as well just make a run at it.
They're shooting like this. It don't matter.
Right. But that kind of confidence inspires. And then when you see, and then, you know, again, you know, talk about like shattering a paradigm, man, like someone like that goes down and you're just like, what? That can't happen. Mm-hmm. And if it can happen, it can definitely happen to me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt that multiple times throughout my career.
Yeah.
Oh. Talk to me some more about either the trends that you see or what guys are coming in for, what's working. What are some of the, we've got some, if desensitization doesn't work, what are some other treatment plans or things that y'all use? Yeah,
so there's a couple different ways we approach the talk therapy angle. So I mentioned one, which is prolonged exposure. There's another one that is a really effective treatment. It's not my go-to because it's more centered around the idea that people have what's called an index trauma or one trauma that's above all the other ones, right? Now, it's true for some people. And some people, in fact, only have one, right? But, you know, if you've got this list of bad things you've been through and one stands out to you, it's a good treatment. It's called cognitive processing therapy, but it is super, super work heavy, right? There's a lot of writing involved in it. And what I found on active duty, at least nobody would do the friggin' work, right? Dog ate my homework, dog, sorry, whatever. And so it's not much different in private practice, I mean, we're still dealing with veterans, right?
Yeah.
And so if they can sham, they're going to sham.
Yeah.
And so,
Found it online.
Yeah. And then you
AI wrote it for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Your trauma story,
GPT
AI
says, right. And then you have to spend a bunch of time kind of processing why they didn't do their homework and make that a big thing. And it's like, man, this is just, I'd rather just you tell me the traumas, right? Because you can't dodge that.
Right.
And you can try, but we're in the room together for an hour.
Totally. And you can you can kind of tell body language, like where are we getting onto a topic that he's avoiding, or it's way more in depth, right?
Right. But all of our docs are trained in both of those, right? So, and those we consider to be kind of the gold standard treatments. And we do get really good outcomes with that one as well. So it's kind of a hybrid. There is some, there's a fair amount actually of exposure based like talk. And then there's also a lot of a written component in addressing things that, that system calls like stuck points and things like that. Right. Which helps a little bit more, I think, on the cognitive end of things where, there's this trend, I guess, in psychotherapy in general that people journal everything, write it down. And there's some value to that, right?
What does that do? What does that writing it down help you?
So to me, it's useful. It's really it's a limited use. One is the utility in that for me is to know maybe what and when and where this is spiking up for you, right?
Okay.
The other potential benefit is it's just another form of exposure. Right. So like you're writing it down, you're acknowledging it, you're kind of maybe asking some questions about, okay, why am I doing that? That's the hope. That's the intent.
I could see it being a little more impersonal.
Yeah.
Where if they can't get the words out, then maybe they could write it
in
a private setting.
Yeah.
And then I could read it later.
Yeah. And I've had guys do that. Like their trauma narratives, they were just so stuck that like, man, I just can't, well, do you think you could write it? And, writing would be my preferred way. If you can't write it, maybe you could type it. It's like yet another layer of removal.
Could
but
you hum it in a song?
That's it, man. You tap it out Morse code. I'll see how strong my skills are. But there's different ways to address that. But the writing piece, it also kind of invites the cognitive examination of it. In cognitive therapy, a big thing is we look at what we call like maladaptive beliefs. Things that we tell ourselves behind the scenes, right? Or, illogical thinking. Like there's a whole list of cognitive errors that we all make as humans.
Describe the say that again. Maladaptive
beliefs. Yeah. Yeah. So like,
lies we tell ourselves.
Yeah. And they almost become like software. Me. It's like software running in the background. Yeah. The stripper lied. Yeah. No, she really lied. It's not a lie.
Okay. So lies we convince ourselves of to pad our ego.
Sometimes, or to disparage ourselves. Right? Like just false stuff. It's bad software that we installed. And maybe it had a purpose at the time we installed it. Maybe it made sense, right? But it's been running in the background for a while. And we've never really cleaned up the hard drive. And so we keep wondering like, why do I keep having these spells, like these moods, or they're, I get angry, I get anxious, whatever it is, and when you start to peel that back, you can usually find one of those things, right? Like shit people tell themselves and they don't even realize they're telling themselves that. So we'll break it down, like in a very basic thing that we call like a thought record. And so we'll say, okay, what was the activating event? What was the antecedent here? Well, this guy cut me off in traffic. Okay, let's jump over to the easy part. What was your reaction? Well, I got pissed and I gave him the finger, and okay, cool. So we got the cause and the effect, at least as it seems, right? So now let's get in the middle of those two things. Like, so what did you tell yourself about that guy cutting you off? What do you mean? Well, there must have been a thought process there, right? Even if you didn't catch it.
Piece of shit.
Yeah, right. It could be something like that, right?
Fuck that
But
guy.
That's a starting point. Yeah. And
fucking Hitler is right here on I-35 right now, driving in front of me.
Yeah, and I'm going to take him out.
I'm going to
do the world a favor, right?
World War III is not happening on my watch.
Man, if that was the case, 35 would be just a friggin' death zone. But anyway, we'll try to get at that middle piece because it always seems like cause and effect. You can even hear it in our language. We say shit like, he pissed me off.
Yeah.
Right? So there's an immediate attribution there that you had no control over the scenario.
Your emotions are your problem.
Yeah, and right. He just walked up and pushed the get pissed off button and you had no choice but to react, right? And what you almost will never hear somebody say is, I really pissed myself off about what that guy did, right?
That's a really great point.
Yeah. But there's a lot more truth to that second one.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, you know, I've had people come at this a million different ways, you know, like, well, you know, he cussed me out. What would you expect me to do? And I go, what if he cussed you out in a language you don't speak? Well, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't understand it. Exactly. Right? He's still cussing you out.
Yeah.
But now the software doesn't recognize it and it doesn't have a response for that. It doesn't tell you to get pissed.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you can.
So I punched him in English.
Yeah, right. Good old US 1-2, right?
He cussed me out in Spanish, so I punched him. I don't know what he said, but he heard mine.
Big old Texas sock in the tooth. But, you know, there's
that's a great point, man. I really pissed myself off thinking about what he did.
Yeah. And I encourage people, like in treatment at least, I encourage people to think that way. It sounds really weird to say it out loud. You know, most people probably wouldn't.
It really does. It puts the ownership on you to control your emotions.
Like I really upset myself about what my wife said earlier.
Yeah.
Right? I really upset myself about the fucking traffic jam on I-35, you know?
Yeah.
And when you really think about it, that is the case, right? Because there's nothing magical about what somebody says that creates anger. We have to give it meaning, right? We have to give it context, and we have to decide what the consequence is for that, right? But that happens incredibly fast.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have to sit there and go, should I get pissed? You know, you just get pissed. And so those types of programs can be looked at. You know, you can slow that down enough, and it takes a lot of repetition, right? It takes a lot of playing with that to create at least another option. You know, and I use this analogy a lot in treatment. It's like, you know, you're staring out at this big field, and there's this old oak tree across the field, right? And there's this really well-worn path that takes you right to that old oak tree. And so it's easy to take, right? The path's already there. The rest of the shit's like chest-high grass. But you look way off to the other side of the field, and there's, I don't know, maybe a better oak tree, right? And you decide you're going to walk to that fucker one day. And so you walk, and you turn around. Once you get there, you try to look, you don't even see your trail, right? Maybe the grass is pushed down a little bit, but there's no trail there. It's hard to take. And so the idea there is if you keep taking that path, you'll wear that trail in, right? And the other one will start to grow over.
Yeah.
And so it's not terribly different. I mean, that's a huge oversimplification, but it's not terribly different in our brain. Like the pathways we use the most in our brain develop strongly.
Yeah.
Right? Things that we do on autopilot, you know, are there. They're automatics. We don't have to think. So as we try to learn something new, replace an old habit with something new, it's hard. Because we're stretching, you know, we're stretching what the brain really wants to do and trying to convince it to do something else. And so that's the process with a lot of those types of what we call thinking errors, right? Or maladaptive cognitions or beliefs.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. And it reminds me a lot of the conversations I had prior to the psychedelic retreats that I've done, because they talk a lot about neuroplasticity.
Right.
And how, and they use that almost identical metaphor or description of everything you do is a pathway of repetition, of habit that you have done. And when you take that medicine, it's almost like a fresh blanket of snow. I'm still going down the mountain, but I can't see the trails anymore. And so now I can carve a new one.
Kind of free to choose. Yeah.
Free to choose. You're free to, you kind of break those habits. And that was something that medicine that they described to a T.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, man. Yeah. Because, you know, again, like most all of our processing, unless it's brand new or novel, you know, it's an established neural pathway.
You've done it before and you're going to do it again.
We've created some learning around it, right? And the brain is really good at that. And if we give it bad inputs, it'll still develop those pathways, you know?
And if we hadn't done it, I assume if we saw someone else, I remember getting out. I've never been a big drinker, but not knowing what else to do than buy a fifth and go sit in my garage and play guitar and drink. Yeah. So that's just what I figured I was supposed to do.
Right. Yeah.
Until I got so sick of being hungover, I was like, I'm going to stop doing this now. Like this sucks.
Not the outcome I was looking for.
Yeah, no, I thought I was supposed to do this and I don't want to anymore. It was fucking, ugh. Are you familiar with any of the psychedelic therapies in this space, or have you
not
heard
really,
about
man.
what's going on with it?
Yeah, I've heard some things. I've read some papers. It's not an area that I have a ton of knowledge around, you know, to be honest. I was following the ketamine trend for a while, and then psychedelics and the psilocybin, and it's emerging enough where it's not quite, I guess, from my lens, like from my clinical seat, it's not mainstream enough where I've paid a ton of attention to it, but I've heard anecdotal stuff from different people, they went and did this and it worked for them. And, what I always say to people is, hey man, be careful, but if it works for you, you know, who's to argue with the result? You know, if it worked, it worked. It may not be a textbook protocol. Right? It may not be something that, you know, as a licensed psychologist, I can endorse, but like, you know, people have different ways to recover. You know, people find different things that work for them. And
a lot of it, I think, is we just don't know.
Yeah.
It got quickly labeled and swept under the rug as far as anything medicinal.
Right.
And it couldn't be used. And so the research isn't there.
Right.
And so there's enough people anecdotally standing up and saying, hey, we need to look into this. That I think the VA just received some funding, or maybe I don't remember. I don't want to speak to it. I'll get it wrong. But there's definitely funding going toward it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's ketamine clinics that have popped up.
Right.
It's funny. I won't use his name, but I'll get vague. One of the people that I know, who was also a psychologist, I don't know if he's a psychologist, but in that space, quit his practice after an injury, and they gave him ketamine to treat him for the injury.
Yeah.
And he called me afterward and was like, bro, because I was telling him about what I was involved in as far as my marriage counseling stuff. And after I did the retreat and then my wife did the retreat, we stopped going, and we told the therapist, like, hey, we're in a place now, I think we're okay. And it was a veteran thing. So it was like limited anyway, 12 weeks, and they got to bump you because they got to bring other people in. And we were like, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
We feel all right. And he called me afterward to tell me what had happened. And he's like, man, I think I'm going to quit my practice. There's something in this. And I don't know what he's doing now. I want to reach out to him and follow it. And that was purely off of an injury, having received a lower dose. I don't know. I doubt it was a big push ketamine. They're just managing pain.
Yeah.
But he's like, I felt this overwhelming love, this overwhelming like importance in my life. And what he was specifically struggling with, I was curious if you've dealt with at all of, how do you listen to these guys coming in every day and leave that shit at work? Right. Because a lot of that stuff's heavy. Yeah. And there may be guys coming in and you're like, pussy, get a job, stop playing video games. Sure. Right. But then there's others where you're like, fuck, man, that was me.
Oh, yeah.
Or that was my guys too. Or how do you process and stay intentional with not letting your pack overload?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, man. And you know, I think in general, like any healthcare provider needs to do that on some level, right? You know, my world just happens to be hearing a lot of really bad shit, you know, all the time. And that's
like cops. They're dealing with the worst 10% of the people all the time.
Nobody calls you when they're having a good day. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the same with psychologists, man. You know, like nobody calls us when they're doing great. They call us when they're not doing well. And, you know, I do a lot of different things, man. My hobbies are pretty varied. I'm fortunate to be married to a psychologist. And so, you know, we kind of get all of that, and, you know, we can decompress together sometimes.
Is there a lot of that within the psychology community? I imagine that'd be tough to not be married to someone.
You know, honestly, man, it's more rare than you would think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I only know one other couple they're both psychologists, and I know probably a couple hundred psychologists. Yeah. So it's, you know, maybe not as common. And the funny thing is, we didn't become psychologists together. We met after we were both psychologists. Right.
Okay.
And I think the thing that, you know, I know I'm diverging here a little bit in terms of self-care, but like, you know, the thing that we clicked on right away was we both are not the typical touchy-feely, sing kumbaya and sit in the full lotus position psychologists, right? We're kind of more like realists. We're like, that's you know, you're not going to find, you know, positive psychology mantras in our office telling you the world's great. And, you know, and it's like, we're just different, you know? And I think that's one of the things that we appreciated about each other right out of the gate was like, okay, you're not one of those either. Yeah.
Don't fill me full of shit.
Yeah. Right.
Like life is hard.
Like, let's be real. Yeah. Let's be real. And, you know, and so, you know, we both clicked in that way. And she was working for DOD at the time. And so like, yeah, so she's worked with, that's all she's ever done is work with like active duty or veterans.
So she's familiar with your circle.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah.
That's good.
So, you know, anyway, in terms of self-care, like, you know, I try to take care of myself. I like to hunt. I like to shoot. I have lots of, kind of fun hobbies. And, sometimes I just process it, man. I'll just sit down and kind of like, like you said, like unpack the ruck a little bit myself. It's like, man, I heard a lot of toxic shit this week or this month or whatever it might be. And just kind of,
Do you talk to your wife about that? Is that how you release that stuff?
Yeah, once in a while. Even both of us being psychologists, like there's still obviously there's some confidentiality limits and things like that, right? But sometimes in generalities, we'll speak to each other, like, hey, last time you had a really tough case, like, you remember what you did? Like just, what did you do to kind of unwind a little bit?
Because the hunting and the hobbies and the things, those can also become distractions too, right?
Yep, they can.
And so, at least in my experience, if I don't at least try to be intentional, like, no, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to work through that.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. Like I use hunting for that, right? So like, I'm a big bow hunter and, I'm not a big bow hunter. I'm a bow hunter, but it's big on the hobby, right? But like me just being in the woods, man, that's kind of where I unpack all this stuff. Like I can just think like I should be focused on the hunt, which, kind of is on and off. Totally. But a lot of times I'll just sit, and I'm totally content if I don't see anything because I'm doing a lot of work myself, right? Like I'm just unpacking shit, and getting deep inside my own head and, doing a clean out.
Oh yeah. I like road trips.
Yeah.
Solo road trips.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's one of the things I miss about the ranch is I'm not working there anymore. Right. But I had a 4-hour drive each way.
Yeah.
And it was 4 hours to just figure out whatever it was I wanted to think about without interruption or listen to a book or listen to a podcast or whatever, you know, but to have that solo time uninterrupted, there was therapy in that.
For sure. Yep. Yeah. And I think, honestly, that's where most of my heavy lifting gets done, mentally is like just time on my own. I don't even really have to be engaged in anything. It's like you see, like driving becomes kind of a no-brain activity, right? It's like, holy shit, I just drove for 2 hours.
How'd I get here?
Yeah, right. How'd I get here?
Definitely done that.
You're on autopilot, right? But but you're processing a ton of stuff in that time span,
for sure.
And so if I go off to and do like a backpack hunt or something in New Mexico or Colorado, there's hours, if not days, of just solitude, right? Where you're not even dealing with the guys.
Do you hunt alone?
I have, yeah. Yeah, I did a solo. I told myself I'd never do it again. I did a solo New Mexico hunt 3 years ago. Seems much sooner than that. Anyway, I got this great big bull. And I was all by myself, right?
Nice.
And
that's a lot of work.
Oh, brother! I shot him at first light, and it was like midnight.
You
that
needed
night
every
when I packed
minute of
out the last load, and it was like, and I trained for it.
You chase him to the road first, or what?
I wish. Well, the funny thing is, so I get up this morning, right? So I I got a little bivvy shelter, right? And I got the friggin' jet boil stove going, making some coffee, and and I can hear them kicking off, right? I can hear them bugling, and I hear like 4 or 5 different bulls, and so like, okay, trailhead is back to my west, right? Yeah, I'm gonna go that way, just in case I get lucky. So it's less distance to the trailhead.
If I find one, I want it closer to the truck, not further.
Yeah, and it all worked out. Well, it didn't all work out, but that was the bull I ended up getting, and it was a little bit closer to the trailhead, and it was just, I just remember halfway through that day, and I'd done some long rucks, man, some long tabs in the military with heavy loads, and I'm older now, man. I'm 51 years old, and I guess I would have been a spry chicken at like 49 or 48 when this hunt went down. But I just halfway through that day, I was like, man, why do you do this? Like, this is work, Yeah. But when that last load came off my shoulders, and the truck was loaded down, and I was out of the woods, and everything had been recovered, I was like, oh yeah, that's why you do it, But during those times, whether it's a, quote unquote successful hunt or not, that's kind of my time. That's like my therapy, being in the woods, solitude, just, I can think my own thoughts, nothing distracts. And it's like, I can just do that.
Do you camp out there overnight alone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a solo, totally. I mean, I lucked out because I killed a bull the first on opening day, but I had already been out there, right? And so, yeah, like a light ruck, man. Throw down a spike camp with a bivy sack and offload some of my gear that I don't need to pack around all day, and scout and then go hunt. And but that was the last solo I did.
Is it weird being out there at night alone?
No, I don't think so. I mean, New Mexico has some critters, like mountain lions.
Black bears, maybe, or mountain lions.
I think so. I know they have mountain lions
to worry about, I suppose.
No, but I've never been.
As long as you have a gun.
Yeah.
I didn't have any weapons.
Right.
So I'm just like, It's just nothing but me and a mosquito net, right? And I'm laying on the ground like, oh, this sucks. I remember putting sticks like along the base. Hopefully if a snake just wouldn't come through, right? I had rocks and all kinds of just, I was more worried about snakes.
Yeah.
Like a jaguar, whatever.
Yeah.
They're more afraid of us. Like they're not going to come try to mess with me, especially if I have a fire, the nights that I had the fire. But yeah, just laying there with a knife, it was like, control your thoughts, man. Ain't nothing you can do about it. Just take your ass to sleep.
You get that false sense of security from like an enclosed bivvy sack too, right? Like, I zip this thing up, man. Nothing can touch me.
Those bears can't touch me. I'm in a 30 below bag.
Of course, I have a 45 in here too, just in case.
That's the thing. That right there would have made all the difference in the world, for sure. The gun becomes a crutch.
Yeah,
it did for me, for sure.
Yeah, it does. It does, man.
Now I don't feel comfortable without one.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you.
So you mostly bow hunt, but we met at the FTW.
Yeah, I rifle hunt too.
Okay.
Yeah, but my preference is bow. You know, it challenges me more. You know,
I can see that.
Yeah, and so you know,
I've seen you shoot.
Yeah,
I could see that. You're a good shooter, man.
Oh, thanks.
You're legit.
Appreciate it, man. But I enjoy the technical stuff of long range shooting. Like, you know, I mean, obviously we shoot at that school. We've shot out to distances I would never shoot at an animal at, but it really increases your confidence. You know, when you can strike a target 1,000 yards away, it's like 500 seems pretty close. It
does.
You know, all of a sudden, right?
It does.
Whereas, you know, years ago, 500 yards would have been like, oh God, you're dreaming, you know, and try to get a wind call on it, you know, try to work the ballistics on that. Like, no, I got to get inside like 150 yards on this thing, you know, to make it.
I've only got a 7 mag.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I like bow hunting. I used to be a big bird hunter. You know, I grew up waterfowl hunting and all that. I can't remember the last time I went on a duck hunt.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing was, I never really liked duck. You know, I'd always give it away.
It's not as good as elk, for sure.
No, yeah. Sure. I just never got into it, man. I would try all this. People would say, oh, soak it in milk, soak it in this, do this. I tried every friggin' recipe known to man. And I'm, you know, someone listening to this, well, you haven't tried it my way, you know, but the reality is I just don't really like it.
If you feed it to an elk, I'll eat it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, secondarily, right? But I would never order it in a restaurant, you know?
Yeah, I had duck in a Chinese restaurant in California. It was okay. It has a distinct flavor to it. And I have a jar of duck tallow.
Yeah.
Is it tallow?
Yeah.
And because I cook predominantly with beef tallow.
Yeah.
I don't use any oils or anything. And so I was trying the duck thing. Definite different flavor. It's not bad.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that in like high-end restaurants, man.
Oh,
like, you know, duck fat fries or.
Yeah. I mean, it has a very, and it's not a bad flavor, but I don't prefer it over the beef.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you on that.
It's fun to hunt. Have you ever gone down to like Argentina and done the?
I haven't.
Kill 5,000 dove in 24 hours.
But I've seen these cats that have
friends go.
They just fill the back of a pickup with
unimaginable, man.
Wow.
Like shooting 1,000 rounds. They only take 20 gauge because you can't shoot 12 the whole day.
Right. Yeah, you'd be destroyed. Yeah.
They have all these little runners just go and it looks awesome.
The last time I saw you, I think we were training up. So I took my son to Africa.
Oh,
we went and hunted Africa. It was great. Yeah.
Really? Where'd you go?
We hunted South Africa, and then we hunted, now I'm trying to think of the area that we hunted, kind of south and I guess west of Johannesburg. It'll probably pop up at some point later while we're talking, but it was awesome, man. It was such a bucket list type of experience. You know, we're so acclimated here to like, you know, one season, one animal, right? You get down there, man, it's like a buffet. It's like, you know, it's kind of like the guides say, like whatever Africa offers you, you take, you know?
Yeah.
And every day, you know, you might set out with a plan like, oh, we're going to hunt kudu, you know, and then that's not what happens that day. You know, you're hunting springbok or eland or something, right? Yeah. So
how old's your son?
He just turned 18 when we went. He had just graduated from, so he went to Missouri Military Academy for high school. And long story behind that one, but good kid, just was making some bad choices.
Is that like a boarding school?
Yeah, they live there. Yeah, man, it's a full-on military academy.
What age did he go there?
15.
Wow.
Yeah, 15.
And was that a good outcome for him?
Excellent.
Really?
Yeah. He got into it, man. He was like
What was he missing?
Structure, I think. You know, he lived with my ex-wife in Dallas, and like I said, nothing egregious. Like he wasn't like out there doing horrendous stuff. In fact, stuff probably you did and I did as a kid that wasn't as big of a deal then, right?
Right.
Like
blowing up mailboxes and
not even that bad.
Oh.
Yeah, not even that intense. Like, once I think he got caught with a vape at school was like one thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the next thing was him and some buddies, they swiped a golf cart at SMU from a groundskeeper at night. And they're out there tearing around SMU in this golf cart.
Yeah.
And then the campus police were chasing them and everybody bailed. My son stayed and took his licks. Which, okay, honorable, but you shouldn't have been doing it to begin with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so there was just a few things. So I finally drew this red line. I'm like, listen, man, like, I know you're not a bad kid. Like, I know you're not.
He's just aimless.
Yeah.
Our boys need something that's hard
100%.
to do, that they care about.
100%.
Public school does not offer that.
Nope. He wasn't doing sports. His grades were very lackluster, just all these different things. And it's like, man, I can only be a part of that like every couple of weekends, And so I finally drew this red line, and I talked with his mom and I was like, listen, like you're calling me all the time stating that, you're having some issues with him. We need to be of the same mind about this because if he goes, he needs to stay. Like not this, oh, it's terrible, get me out, And so she agreed. And he did, I forget what the final straw was, man. It was minor, but egregious enough to cross that red line. And I go, all right, dude, I'm coming to get you. We're going to Missouri. And we went and there he stayed. And so, it was the typical thing where first few months were misery, they cue ball him, they, put him in a uniform, the whole bit.
Break him down.
This kid became a sergeant major, their nominal rank system, right? Got involved in this thing called Raiders, which is like an adventure racing team. Got involved in shooting. A and B student, got into Texas Tech. That's where he goes now, studying business. Like it was a turnaround for this kid, and it was a rough decision to make, but 100% the correct one.
How did he feel about it?
Afterwards?
No, I mean initially.
Oh, initially he hated it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he fought me tooth and nail, man. He begged, like, don't do this, Dad. Don't do this, man. I don't want to go. I'll straighten it up. I'll tighten it up, man. I'll be a straight A student. I go, I've heard this.
Man.
We've had this talk, and
it sucks because once I think about this a lot with my son, and if I'm going to tell him that something's going to happen, I better be ready to do it.
100%, man.
Otherwise, I'm going to lose every battle after that because he knows I'm full of shit.
He knows you'll fold.
Yeah. And so I was like, hey, man, if that happens, I am going to spank you.
Yeah.
And then he does it. I'm like, dude, now I have to whoop your ass.
Right.
Like, I don't want to do this. And so I try to be very selective when I say that.
Yeah.
But
no, you're right.
Sometimes it's like, man, I'm out of options.
Yep.
I don't know what else to do. Now, it's mostly I just smoke his ass. I'm like, oh, you want to say that? Okay, that was 30 push-ups.
Right.
My 6-year-old can do 30 push-ups without touching the ground.
Wow.
Like, he's getting, I'm like,
yeah,
you gotta be dumb, you better be tough.
PT stud, yeah.
Yeah, he's in homeschool. He's always giving my wife shit. I was like, all right, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. Let's go outside. We're going to run.
Well, and it's funny, because since that day, like I'll even hear him say this to his friends, like, oh, my dad says something, it'll happen. That credibility piece.
That's
I think
a huge compliment.
And I didn't, it wasn't like I bluffed him a lot or anything or tried to deceive him when he was younger. But like that, I think was a defining moment in terms of, is the old man full of it?
Mm-hmm.
He was packed when I showed up, but I think he still held out hope that like, okay, man,
we'd get to the driveway.
Talk him. Yeah,
moment.
He's just going to scare the hell out of me.
I just love you so much.
We'll get to the Oklahoma border and spin back around, or like, no, man. I think by the time we hit the Missouri border, he was pretty well convinced that this was really going to happen.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah,
that turned him around. Yeah, is he grateful now?
He is. He is. I mean, he was a kid that he didn't have any, and again, like I never put this pressure on I have 2 boys, and I never put this pressure on either one of them that they have to go to college, Said, hey man, if you want to use your brain to work, there's some great things you can learn. There's also some really useless degrees you could study and waste a bunch of money. Oh, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with working in a trade. There's nothing wrong with getting on the job training. There's some trades out there that pay phenomenally.
Oh,
like if you're a skilled friggin' electrician or plumber or,
My nephew's doing an intern right now working with a electrician in town.
Yeah.
And I think he went over to A&M and he came back and he's like, this sucks. I think he's still over there, but on the weekends he's coming back and interning.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
I'm like, we'll see how long that college thing lasts.
Right.
He didn't have any idea particularly what he wanted to do, just general business.
Yeah.
He's like, well,
Yeah.
that's fine. But if you don't narrow it down, you don't figure out what you actually care about
Right.
and want to pursue, there's a whole lot of work for a vague degree.
Sure.
And
Yep.
and that's a he might get through it, but that's a really hard
Absolutely.
thing to get through.
Yeah.
And so I'm
Totally
hoping
agree.
that maybe it's like, I can go this route. I go to a trade school
Yeah.
and I can make really good money.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you don't need a business degree to run a business.
Right.
It is going to be hard to teach yourself and to learn, but there's all kinds of people that will help you
Yeah.
that have done it before.
Yes.
Right. And it's funny that we still pay so much for education
I know.
when everything mankind has ever wanted to know or
Yeah.
has learned is
At our
for free
fingertips,
right
man.
here on my phone.
Yes.
And so how do you quantify it or I guess show the proof that you've learned those things
Yep.
Other than a university? I just enlisted in Jordan Peterson's university.
Did you really? It's awesome, man.
It's like $500
I've looked
for
at
the
that.
year.
Yeah.
They have like 20 different courses. It's in lecture
Yes.
format, but very well done with videos and all kinds of stuff. And I haven't gotten real deep into it yet because of work, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
To see.
I think there's good reason to be. He's a guy that I've followed for a lot of years, and I just think he's he's brilliant. You know, he is so articulate, and he happens to be a psychologist, but he's just a fascinating guy.
Have you ever got to hear him speak or gone to one of his events?
Not live. No.
Okay.
No, it's always been like not podcast, but like simulcast or
Sure.
pay-per-view, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. And then of course all the recorded stuff on YouTube and whatever.
Yeah.
But he wrote some books early on, and I had read those books.
Okay.
And then so I just kind of kept following him. I'm like, man, this guy's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now he's making some statements, political statements, and he's getting even bigger. Right now they're trying to take him down, and he overcomes that. And
Oh yeah, he's very well thought out, and he makes some good points. And maybe he's not always right. I don't know, but he usually offers a perspective that I hadn't considered before, or maybe just articulates something that I felt like I already knew, but had never put it into words.
Differently. Yes,
I'm like, fucking that.
He nailed it.
That was spot on.
What he
man.
said.
Yeah,
right.
Damn.
Absolutely.
He's
man.
a gift for sure.
Yeah. No, awesome, dude. I think you'll really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'll have to let me know.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. I'll let you know.
I've looked at that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks fun. And it's, $500. I've got 12 months to play with it. 18, I could do one course a month per se.
Heck yeah, man.
Get through almost everything he's got. And
it's one of those that, I got a couple of educational things like on the back burner. Like I'm trying to learn Italian right now.
Really?
And,
why?
We're going to Italy.
Okay.
And so, so in January, we're going to take a trip over to Europe and go to Italy. And
have you been before?
I've been all over Europe, man. I've never been to Italy.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be a first time for me.
Yeah.
But in some of the stuff we do with motorsports, so many of the people are Italian. And so I want it more of like shock and awe value, like when they're blowing off over there and then I pipe in with Italian. This American can speak Italian. It's interesting. There's a lot of overlay between it and Spanish.
A lot, yeah.
And I think it's destroying my Spanish. My Italian's only so, man.
Yeah.
It's not great at all. I've only been studying it for like a couple of months.
El spaghetti.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I was really disappointed in the food in Italy.
Yeah, I've heard
really disappointed, particularly in and maybe this is because we were in like touristy area around Rome. But we went to Venice. I went to Florence, Pisa, and Rome. Florence was really cool.
Yeah,
it had kind of an old city feel to it.
Yeah,
but it was like. Each city block was almost like a massive hotel or a massive building or something. And then there would be just a random one missing. Huh. Like this whole block building got picked up and thrown away. And it's just a flat top area where everybody has a party.
Interesting.
And so we're just walking around the city, and every other block or so, there's one of these little pavilion areas where everyone's hanging out, playing music, drinking wine, just chilling. It was super fun.
Yeah.
And you can, at least in Venice, you could walk around and drink. Pisa was very anticlimactic. There is nothing there but a building about to fall over. And Rome was so touristy.
Right.
I didn't care for that.
Yeah.
Like I like to get away from the tourist stuff because I don't want to feel like a wallet walking around.
Right. Exactly. And
I remember when we got off the train, we were looking at each other. We were just like backpacking, and I was fucking tired.
Yeah.
I had told my wife, I was like, hey, we were dating at the time. I think we'd known each other for like 2 months. was like, hey, let's just get a cab. I don't know where this hotel is, but we'll just get a cab because I don't want to walk anymore. And she's like, yeah, me either. And so we get a cab, and this dude drives around for fucking 30 minutes. And I'm getting mad as shit. And she's like, why is this
running the meter up?
Yeah, dude. She's like, where did you book this hotel? And I was like, not this far away.
Right back there.
You know, I was like, we're about to get out of here. And then he finally pulls up, and I'm fuming because I know what's going on, but I don't know how to prove it yet.
Right.
And he's just unloading all our stuff. And I'm like, hold on one second. And I go in and I talk to the concierge. I was like, where's the train station? She's like, 2 blocks that way. I'm like, motherfucker. And I walk out, and he's just took off. She's like, oh, that was a $40 cab ride. I was like, for 2 blocks.
Yep.
These sons of bitches. They're
Should have been
sneaky,
5.
man.
Oh, yeah.
They're sneaky. Tell me more about this motor sports that you do. I've heard, you've podiumed 3 times this year?
No, just once. Actually.
Just once?
Yeah, just once.
Tell me about it.
So rookie year, single make series. And so, it's GT racing. So we run some of the same big circuits as like F1. And so like COTA this year.
How did you get into this? Have you raced before?
No, never. Never raced, man.
Wow.
Yeah, never raced. And so
just got tired of going to Gaddyland and playing the cruising video game.
Honestly, I didn't know if I would
right?
like it or not like it, you know, like
how do you not like it?
Oh yeah, I love it.
It's awesome.
It's so addictive. Yeah. So they do this, it's basically like a school. And so it's called Corso Pilota. Right. And so it's pilot's course. And so there's 3 phases to it. There's a sport course where you'll go to some big circuit, and then there's an Evo course, which is the second in progression, right? So you do well in sport, you like it, whatever, you get to go to Evo. You sign up for Evo. And
a little more souped up cars.
Well, it's a mix, right? So you're running the street car again, doing some skid pad stuff, autocross, and then you're out on the circuit, and then you get to sit and get into the race car a little bit. And then there's the race course, and that's all race car, right?
Okay.
And so now you're learning, like,
do you have to progressively work your way up to that?
Yeah. You can't just jump.
How long did it take for you to go through those courses?
I did the first 2 in like 2 weeks.
Oh,
so
wow.
I did one, took a break, came back, and I was out at Thermal in California. Okay. In private club, but that's where they hosted it. And then I did race here at COTA. Which was cool, man. The first time I ever on a big circuit, and happens to be Circuit of the Americas. And I fell in love with that track.
I've been on that track.
That track is badass.
With my truck and my 5th wheel.
How fast is that?
Yeah, it didn't go real fast. It's getting those drift turns. No, I was renting it out, and they were having a race, and so I gave it to a race team to stay in. But I did get to do a lap on the track, pulling my trailer.
All right.
It was fun.
No, COTA's a sweet track, man.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's a challenging track. It's a fast track.
Yeah.
Big straights, but anyway, that's kind of how I evolved into it. And then they have a thing called Club Challenge, which is just time attack, right? It's just you against the clock. And then whoever turns down the best time wins. So I went up to Road America in Wisconsin, and I ran the 488 in a time attack event last year. And loved it. I'm like, okay, this is cool, but it's not door-to-door racing, right? Like, there's nobody else out here really. Yeah, I mean, it's all staggered, so they're out there, but you're not really racing.
You're not navigating.
No, man. You're like, there's no racecraft, right? It's just you're just trying to do the best lap you can do. Sure. And so I finished that, and I'm like, next year, full season. I'm like, I'm going racing. Like, that was fun.
That is cool.
And then so I got a bunch of testing in between seasons, right?
What do you mean testing?
So like you get in the race car and you go with a coach, right? And they feed all this stuff to you, right? So initially a coach will roll with you and give you, like, you'll jump in with the coach. They'll set down like a reference lap. Like, okay, this is what this car can do.
Okay.
And then like you're hanging on for dear life.
You're like,
right?
holy shit.
Yeah. And like, okay, so I'm probably not going to push it that hard. Yeah. Just out of pure ignorance.
Sure, right? Naivete.
And then these cars have like what they call like a V-box setup in them and different things, and so then the coach can actually in real time see all your data and see you and see the road. So you go out solo, right? And they're in your ear, and they're like, okay, man, approaching turn 2, make sure you brake at this marker, give the brake like a 5 out of 10, blah, blah, blah. Like they're walking you through that circuit, and then the instruction becomes less and less and less as you pick this stuff up. And then so you're analyzing lap times, looking at where you're losing time, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. They'll get on you for, okay, man, like you're a passenger, dude. You need to be a driver. Like that car can do so much more than what you're doing, and
how many times did you hear that before you got to the level that they stopped saying
I still
it.
hear it, brother.
Do you?
I still
Okay.
hear it sometimes. Yeah. Because he knows when I'm being like, when I'm
'Cause,
aggro and like I'm into it,
Yeah.
or if I'm just kind of like going through the motions. Like, so I still hear it sometimes.
And these aren't just circular tracks.
Oh, no. Yeah, these are full on circuits, man. So like Sonoma, Laguna Seca, Watkins Glen, New York, Indian. Our last race this year was Indy, the road
That's
course.
cool as fuck. Man.
Oh, dude, being at Indy and then the Brickyard and all, like that was bad. Like just the history there. They took COTA off the schedule for next year, which really bums me out because they introduced the Miami Autodrome and Daytona. Daytona's not new, obviously, but it's been a few years since Ferrari's been there, and so we'll race. But yeah, it was just kind of a weird deal, man, where I like, decided, hey, I want to go do this. My wife actually joined me. She's been through the sport course and the Evo course, and we're going to try to get her through the race course.
That's cool. She going to ride with you or race with you?
She's a good driver.
Really?
Honestly, man. Like, yeah.
How long are these races? Is it pretty physically taxing?
Yeah, they're not like endurance races, so they're only like 30 minutes, right?
Oh, all right.
But I will say this, man. So like on a race week, you show up on Tuesday, you're driving Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, qualify Saturday morning, race Saturday, qualify again Sunday morning, race Sunday. You're smoked.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, the young kids, I'm sure they're fine, right? But like, you're pulling a lot of G's in those cars, and just the in and out of them, and they're super hot. Like they just wear you out. And
I haven't never raced like that, but I have been through 3 driving courses where, we're doing apex turns and we're pitting and we're trying.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Oh, it's a blast, man.
It felt like a full body flex.
Yeah.
Like when I get done with it, like I almost have to,
yeah.
Like just shake it. Like, why does that muscle hurt? Like,
yeah, right.
Because I'm just
you're bracing, right? Yeah, you're bracing with that left
bracing
leg
between the seats and the door and the console. But God,
initially
such
for
a
me
rush.
with the hands, man. It's like I would gorilla grip this. It's got like an F1 wheel in it, right? And so all the toggles and stuff.
Yeah.
And by the end of that first race I was ever in, man, like I couldn't even really activate this because I just white knuckled it for 30 minutes.
I bet.
But anyway, we ended up finishing 5th overall on the season.
Okay.
So for my rookie year, I'm pretty stoked.
Yeah, dude, that's cool.
Our goal was top 10. That was our aspirational goal. So to cut that in half and finish 5th and get a podium.
How many racers?
6.
6.
Oh, how many races?
Racers.
20.
I thought you were going to say 6. I was like,
No,
well.
5th out of 6.
Well,
Good job, man.
You made top 10. That's good.
23 or 25, I think, is what we
legit.
ended with. Yeah,
That's good.
Something like that. So,
do you think there's any other circuit that you're interested in trying out? Is this a new pathway for you?
I don't know, man. Like there were so many cool tracks this year. Some I hated initially and fell in love with. Sonoma was one of those.
Okay.
Like that track scared the hell out of me.
Why?
Just some of the corners, like you've been on Sonoma?
Uh-uh.
Okay. So at Sonoma, you come down the front straight. There's a hairpin that you get to. It's like the last turn officially on the circuit, right? And then you could do this long sweeper and you have this really fast straight. I think you're doing like 130 and you basically dive into this corner and it shoots straight uphill. But the physics behind it basically are that you don't really need to brake that hard because the compression will give you a ton of grip, right? And so you come into this corner and like I was petrified, man. I'm like, there's no way this car's going to hold at 120 miles an hour going into this corner. Like I'm going to fly off into this friggin' barrier.
Yeah.
And the coach is like, everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks you're not the first dude that, had this concern. Like,
hide and watch, coach.
Yeah, right. And
this is my gift.
Yeah.
Fucking up the things that nobody else fucks up.
And so after seeing me like kind of, I'd come off the throttle and kind of coast into it and little cheats, right, to slow myself down. He's like, all right, enough. He goes, get in the passenger seat, which I hate being in, right? Because you're just strapped into a friggin' rocket, right?
He totally has called you a pussy.
Yeah, he totally did, man.
Get out, pussy.
And he's like, okay, this is how fast you can take this turn. And like he's screaming into it, and I'm like, holy shit, like this isn't gonna hold. And I don't say any of this, right? But I'm just thinking it, like, all right, fucker, like you're gonna do a number on this car,
yeah.
And it held, like of course, and that's actually his home track, and so like he knows that track inside and out. And so, but they're all really good tracks. I can't say there was any I hated. Like Watkins Glen is a monster because it's all barriers. Like there's no forgiveness, man, like everywhere. And I saw it eat 3 or 4 cars just in the race I was in. Like that week, it probably ate like 10 cars. Guys getting loose in corners and then just, those cars are carbon fiber, man. So like it's confetti,
Yeah.
But no, I can say I raced all season, didn't have a crash. I got hit a few times, but I never had a crash. And that, that to me was a big deal. I didn't want to crash a car.
Sure.
A lot of guys did, a lot of guys went through 2-3 cars this season, like totaled them out. And so, no.
Do you have a sponsor for all of this or no?
I have some like nominal sponsors that, because I didn't
take the edge off.
Yeah. And I didn't, honestly, I didn't get into it for that. I mean, sponsorship would be cool, but, it's an insanely expensive hobby. I do a lot of like pro bono sponsors, right? And so like on my car, I've got like the A3G initiative, right? I got their sticker on my car. Cool. There's a small biofarm company out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and I actually credit this company to save my life. They make a cancer drug, and I volunteered to put their logo on my car, Provectus Biofarm.
Did you have cancer?
Yeah, man, I had stage 4 cancer. Yeah,
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was diagnosed in 16. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Went through 2 years of clinical trials, the whole bit down at MD Anderson.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was the drug. Like they mixed it with another drug that's been around, like an immunotherapy, but that was the drug. You couldn't convince me otherwise. Right.
No kidding.
And, but anyway, they're on the car. And so, Softleat, you familiar with those guys?
What is it?
Softleat?
Softleat?
Yeah, they do shirts and supplements and stuff.
I'm sure I've probably seen it.
Okay. Yeah. So those guys were on the car, and then basically our handshake deal was you send me free subs and I put you on the car, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the car's unique, right? It's kind of an homage to veterans. It's camo. It's like the only camo car on the circuit because most of them are red, right? It's Ferrari. But yeah, it's like a tan and camo, and it's got my jump wings on the hood or on the roof of the car. Nice. Like it's kind of cool.
That is
different,
cool,
man. And the 296 next year will look the same. It'll look just like that. So
nice.
But yeah, sponsorship would be a cool deal, man. It's just, when you tell people like what a week's worth of tires cost or a week's worth of fuel costs, they're like, oh yeah, probably not. Cause it is televised. Like it's on Peacock, on NBC, it's live streamed on YouTube.
Dude, when you race, tell me. Okay. I would love to watch.
Yeah, you can watch all the old ones.
That'd
now.
Be cool as fuck. Really? Yeah, where could I find
Just
those?
Go on YouTube. You'll see me at every race, man. So 2 races for every circuit, and I podiumed at Sonoma, that track that I hated.
Yeah. That's the one.
Ended up getting a second there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a hell of a rookie year.
Yeah, I was happy with it, man. I had a great coach, great team. Like, these cars require a ton of support, all the techs and all that stuff, and they get them from A to B for you and all that. So,
Are they just turning into robots now?
The cars?
Yeah.
The thing I loved about the 488 was it's a very analog car.
All right.
Like it's old school turbocharged V8, right? And it's, man, when you mash the brakes, you feel the brakes, right? Yeah. And when you steer the wheel, you feel all the input. And then this 296, man, it's fly by wire. It's a twin turbo V6 that cranks out more horsepower than that V8, and it's electronic braking, electronic steering, and it's a very different car. Right. So I got a huge learning curve ahead of me between now and March. But I really liked that about the 488 was it felt like a car,
just a fast one.
Yeah. And it wasn't the most nimble thing. I mean, it's a very capable car, but like the 296, man, it's super pointy. Like you give it a little input, it goes, it'll do it. So you got to be super reserved in how you apply brakes and steering and all this stuff to it. And it is a faster car. Like on average, the 296 were, they were turning in 2 to 3 second better lap times on average.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's definitely a faster car.
Is that why they made the change, or is it just a natural progression?
It's a natural thing. They do this every 5 to 6 years.
They got to sell new cars, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't have one, you don't get to play, right? So, it was a 458 before that. And which I thought was a super cool car too. Super loud, but yeah, a lot of fun, man. It's, it almost kind of starts to feel like a job a little bit, but it's a job you enjoy because like you got to spend time on the simulator. Like, you got to get laps in to memorize these tracks before you get there. It's too expensive to learn otherwise. Right?
I heard about your simulator.
You did?
Where it is?
Yeah.
It's like
in my office.
A secret room in your office with a keypad.
Yeah. I won't tell anybody about this podcast.
That's pretty cool. I was like, I'm gonna go do some work. I'll be back after lunch, guys. Do some organizing in my file room.
Yeah, seriously. Like most people that think, it's funny, man, because like a lot of the people I spend my life with, they don't even know I race. Mm-hmm. And now we just shared it with like I don't know how many thousands of people. But it's not, I do it for me, man. Like, it's something I enjoy. And, you know, when people hear that, they kind of like, oh, yeah, that's cool, whatever. But
It's very cool.
it's not why I do it. You know, I just do it because I think the cars are cool.
It's fun.
And yeah.
And it's cool.
Yeah. And it was one of those things like after cancer, you know, like my whole friggin' mindset changed about.
What was that experience like? I mean, I know, I can only imagine that was difficult. And
Sure.
I just lost a friend to lung cancer, Smosh, Josh Clark. He was the PM for Triple Canopy, Marine sniper, had a pretty good reputation in the community. And I was really trying to get him here, but he was going through chemo and he couldn't fly.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to get over there, and it just didn't work out. And he ended up passing away about a week ago. And yeah, it's just weighed heavy on me since then. And how did you get through? Like, were you notified that you were already in stage 4 when you found out?
No, man, it progressed. So I had melanoma, right? And initially when you tell people, oh, skin cancer, everybody gets skin cancer, right? And
cut it off with a pocket knife.
Yeah, that's it, you know, but melanoma is particularly aggressive, right? And it gets into your blood and into your lymphatic system. And so we thought we'd caught it. You know, I had this mole pop up on the top of my head, and my wife had noticed it like right out of the gate, man. She's like, you know, you should go to the
mole, all of a sudden mole.
Yeah, all of a sudden a mole. And she's like, you really should go to the dermatologist. I'm like, yeah. I kicked the can down the road. And then it would bother me, like it would itch or something like that, you know, and I'd go to scratch it and it'd be bleeding, you know, and it's like, okay, that's not normal. That's weird. And she's like, you got to go to the dermatologist. Finally, I made the appointment. I go in there and even then they were like, oh, it's probably like a squamous cell, you know, it's probably no big deal. And so they take a biopsy and then I get that call, right? And so it's that call where you got to come in for results. So you know what that means. Yeah, if it's good news, they just tell you.
They would have told you. That's right.
So I go in. She goes, I'm really sorry. It's melanoma. And she goes, do you mind if I pray for you? And I'm like, oh, this is bad. You know?
Well, damn, dog. That's probably going to die right here.
I'm like, well, I guess it couldn't hurt, right? Pray away. And so they wanted to send me to like a local yokel up there in Killeen. And, you know, and I get this dude, and he calls himself, they call me the cancer guy because I do a lot of cancer surgeries. I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, I'm not, the cancer guy is not like, I'm going to the big leagues.
I feel like I'm going to the puppy mill to get a dog right now. I'm trying to get some shit cut out of my hair.
Bingo, man. And so I looked it up, you know, I did all this research and I'm like, okay, so there's like Sloan Memorial Kettering in New York. That's a hell of a commute. And there's MD Anderson in Houston. Okay, Houston's doable, right? And at the time, actually, MD Anderson was like the #1 melanoma hospital. And I think it stayed there. So luck of the draw, man. I go down there. I get the chief of melanoma, right? He's my doc. And he's my surgical oncologist. And then I get a really capable medical oncologist and just a great treatment team, right? And so they do this whole, they call it a wide local excision, where they basically take a chunk out of your scalp about like that. And then they skin graft a full thickness graft back into where all that was, because they want to get the whole radius, right? In case that thing is spread out a little bit. And so, oh yeah. And then they draw and dissect a bunch of lymph nodes and, you know, anywhere, like they do this, I'll get the name wrong, man, but it's like a lymphoscintigraphy. And they put like a radioactive dye into the mole or into the spot. And then they watch where it drains, like into the lymphatic system. So they know which one's the target. So anyway, they dissect all these friggin' lymph nodes. Hey, I think we got it, you know, like stage 2. Okay, that's good. Prognosis is much better. I'm stoked, you know, I'm thinking, okay, cool, man. So I'm back home. And one morning I wake up and there's a friggin' knot in my shoulder, like the size of like I don't know, man, like not quite as big as a golf ball, but like a good sized marble, like right? A pecan? Yeah, maybe a pecan or, a small walnut, perhaps. There you go. Yeah. And it's hard as a friggin' rock, right? And I'm just like, man, that's weird. And then it keeps getting bigger, right? And this thing is about the size of a golf ball. So I'm like, holy shit. So I call down, they're like, come down now. So I go down there, they do a biopsy on it. Like, I'm really sorry, man. Like it's melanoma, you know, and now it's obviously in your blood and your lymphatics. And then they identified 3 more tumors in my abdomen, and which, you know, I had no visibility on, of course. Yeah. And so anyway, they're giving me the riot act, you know, or not the riot act, they give me the treatment plan and they give me my treatment options. I'm like, okay, well, we got this treatment, you know, we had for a long time. It's about a 20% survival over 3 years. I'm like, shit, that doesn't sound good. And then, you know, there's chemo and radiation, and that's slightly less than this other one. And I'm like, is this all you're selling? You know, like, he goes, well, we do have this clinical trial. You know, it's a really small number, and I think we still have a slot in it. And I go, tell me about that, man. Because I'm not liking the odds.
These odds suck.
Yeah, these are terrible. Like, these are the best odds you got right now.
Make sure I die broke.
Yeah.
It's just expensive.
Oh, you're not kidding, man. And so anyway, they say, yeah, we have 1 slot left. There's 7 slots. You would be number 7. Fucking book me. You know, like,
is it the placebo group?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm worried about that too, man.
Fuck yeah.
But they did tell me, like, you know, it would be, so the immunotherapy would be Keytruda, and the other drug would be this, the compound was called PV10, but it's made by this company called Provectus, and it's a natural compound. It's the same shit that they extract purple clothing dye from, same plant, Rose Bengal, right? And I'm like, whatever, I don't care what the hell you call it. Like, you know, I'm willing to try this, right?
I'll be in my ass.
Yeah, I'll be a guinea pig. And they go, we can't tell you outcome odds because we don't know, you know? And I'm like, we can always default back to this other stuff if shit starts going pear-shaped, but like, let's do this. And so it was fascinating, man. So the Rose Bengal, the only reason I was a candidate for that study was because they could reach that tumor to inject directly into it, right? So if it would have been just the other stuff, probably not. But because this one popped up in this lymph node underneath my shoulder, underneath my clavicle, they could reach it. And so he injects, and they had to base these injections upon, this was the protocol, based upon the size of the tumor. Well, there was nobody else in this group that had a tumor anywhere near that big. These were all like little subcutaneous melanoma tumors, right?
Okay.
So I get this fucking golf ball. So he walks in with like 2.5 syringes full of this shit. And I'm like, all that's going in there? And he's like, yeah, man, sorry, you know. And he goes,
he's trying to rupture it?
No, he wants to just fill it with this shit, right? Just, he's going to fill this friggin' tumor up with this, which is, you know, showed in my studies to kill melanoma cells. And so I'm like, whatever, man, I'm down. And he hits me with the first one. And I have a pretty, you know, I know everybody says this, man, but I truly have a pretty high pain threshold, right? I can endure a lot of shit without anesthesia or whatever. It felt like someone had put my entire arm in a vise and was like breaking it, like just like crushing it. That's how intense this felt, right? And it's so bad, like I started getting nauseated and I sat up, like, because I really thought I was going to throw up. And he's like, we could do this in the OR, man. He goes, I could sedate you. And I thought, that sounds like a bit much. You know, like all these other folks are just getting the injections. Well, I didn't realize at that time they were getting a fraction.
Yeah,
man. They were getting like a little tiny micro shot, you know? And so anyway, I get through this first round. And I'm coming up with a battle plan for the second time around. Like, all right, man, I'm gonna get my friggin' headphones. Like, I'm gonna rock Metallica, and I'm just gonna bear down, right?
Yeah.
And so, between that first and second treatment, this thing already started to soften. Like that tumor started to get soft, and he hits it again, right? Come back to, and I did. And I played.
Was it that pain every time?
Yeah, it was bad. Okay. But I just, you know, like I said, I just cranked up and kind of went to another place in my head.
If it hurts, I'm still alive.
Yeah, that's it, man. And so he hits it again, and after the second treatment, it's mush. Like this whole thing is soft. And I'm like, went back the third time because there's supposed to be 4 injections every 3 weeks. And I'm also doing the intravenous Keytruda, the immunotherapy. And so I come back and he's like, I can't explain it. I can't explain what. And he goes, this thing is like dead. Like we killed this tumor. And so that same round of CT showed these other 3 had disappeared. Like whatever it turned on in this one with my immune system, it activated it. And these 3 other tumors disappeared, like no longer visible. Like one was on my liver. The other 2 were GI lymph nodes, gone. And we did the 4th iteration just because the protocol called for it. But this thing was just mush. And so much so, like they had to surgically get the wreckage out of there. Like it was too much for my body to get rid of.
There.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when they biopsied it, they said not a single viable cancer cell was found. Like no living cancer cells.
Wow.
But the protocol was I had to do the shit for 2 years with the Keytruda, not the but I was cancer free at that point. But I did it, you know, because like, okay, man, I signed on to this. I think you saved my life. Whatever, man. You want to pump me full of this other shit. And I had a really good response to it. Like, not just in terms of how the cancer reacted, but like, man, I did CrossFit. Like I was lifting, I was doing all this stuff. And like, yeah, some people get really sick. And I'm like, yeah, doesn't feel that way to me. So anyway, you know, here we are. Shit, I don't know. I guess officially I was cancer free in 18. You know, 7 years later almost.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, thanks, brother. But yeah, so that logo is on my car.
That's fucking great. Yeah. Rightfully so.
Yeah. And I heavily invested in that company shortly after that protocol was over.
Oh, I bet,
it's a penny stock, man. Like it hasn't launched, you know, like I think I paid 6 cents a share for it. And I think it's trading at like 10 or 11 cents. So it's already doubled, but I'm like, you know, unfortunately probably what'll happen is, you know, they'll get enough efficacy. It'll get swallowed up.
Get rid of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll get bought and squashed. But I told all my docs there, if this shit comes back, I don't care where it is. I want you to cut me open and dump that shit into my abdomen, wherever, right? Just pour it. Like just put it in there.
What kind of plant was it again?
The plant is called Rose Bengal.
Rose Bengal.
Some people say rose Bengal. But yeah, it's where they extract purple clothing dye from. And honestly,
Is it edible?
I don't know. Good question.
I'd try it.
Yeah. But they it would turn the entire side of my body purple for about 2 days as that
Really?
stuff worked its way through the skin, and like when
So just like a massive bruise then?
kind of, yeah. It was a really funky purple. I'll send you some pictures sometime, man. I'll show you how this thing like progressed and all that. But
That's fucking wild.
yeah. No, it was a wild ride, man, and it was, in my mind, it was miraculous, right? It was like from like pretty much a death sentence to
For overnight, man, that's scary as shit.
oh yeah, like
And
just
then-
thing just emerged. I mean, maybe it was growing, I didn't feel it or whatever,
Right.
but like I looked in the mirror and I'm like, what the hell's that? And yeah, and to have that be cancer, the thing they thought they got,
Yeah. Good for you, man.
yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, thanks for coming in, man. This has been a really educational and entertaining story.
Thanks, man.
And you're doing some really great shit.
well, thanks for having me.
And I appreciate on behalf of the veteran community your focus on helping us. It's fucking noble, man. And I'm glad you're doing it.
You bet,
We need
brother.
more of you.
Yeah, I agree, man. So people are out there looking for something to study, clinical psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, tell them where they can find your clinic, guys that need help in Fort Hood or San Antonio, whatever's going on. Where can we find you?
So quick caveat, we stay pretty full, right? So don't be discouraged. Like you call and get a wait list.
Okay.
But yeah, we're in Killeen, Pathfinders, Psychological and Psychiatric Services, same name in San Antonio. And yeah, that's the mission, taking care of military spouses, families, veterans, their spouses, families. And we get contractors, we get all kinds of folks who are affiliated. But yeah, that's the mission. And so, even if people have questions, like if they just want to talk to a provider and see what options are or whatever, we take TRICARE, obviously we have to, if we're going to deal with that population, right?
Yeah.
Sure. VA gets a little trickier. They don't like to pay for outside care. Yeah, and from time to time, we even have grant-funded programs that help offset that. So just depending on when,
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, reach out to Brad or reach out to your brothers, whatever you need to do. Stay in contact. And thank you guys for listening. Take care. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Absolutely.